We all know Kesha, don't we? Way back during the ancient year of 2009 AD, Kesha captivated the world with her debut single, TikTok. A few years later, she disappeared off of the face of the earth, but this is not your usual come-and-go pop star story. The reason she fell out of the public eye is because she stopped recording music, allegedly because of emotional and verbal abuse from her producer, who she was stuck in a contract with. Her name popped up again just recently because the verdict on her case for an injunction was announced, which caused a bit of a stir on social media. Now, perhaps that's a bit of a gross understatement, but that case is not my focus today. Ever since her career began, Kesha has been under fire from critics who claim that the lyrics of her music are harmful, promoting a 24/7 clubbing and partying lifestyle to the impressionable youth who listen to her music. Others claim that Kesha's party-happy lyrics are nothing more than a product of the time period, and that not all music has to contain pure, profound lyrics. Simply put, they don't believe that the shallow subjects of her songs should prevent her from creating the delectable jams that we all adore. But regardless of which side of this now moot debate you're on, perhaps you should think twice about your position, because I believe that we are missing the big picture here. You see, all this time, we've been acting under the assumption that Kesha's lyrics glorify alcohol, sex, and partying. But what if I told you that her songs are not what they initially appear to be? We're gonna double check that claim, and there is no better way to do so than to analyze these lyrics to see what they're really all about. I recommend having the lyrics in front of you as I speak. I'll put some links in the description that will make that simple for you. Let's not dilly-dally any longer. We'll begin right now. The best place for us to begin is probably where Kesha's career began, TikTok. In late 2009, this song's simple yet memorable lyrics and techno flair shot it to the forefront of every pop radio station in existence. Stations apparently liked it so much that it was played all day, every single day, until like 2013. In fact, I just heard it being played last month, and not even in a throwback block or anything. Whether you love or hate this song, one sure thing is that it's pretty legendary, having managed to break a few records in its heyday. Now, if you've heard this song a couple of times at least, your thoughts right now are probably somewhere along the lines of, "Jake, you idiot, how the hell is this song about anything except partying?" I'll admit that the song initially appears to be about the party lifestyle. After all, she mentions getting drunk, guys hitting on her, and even brushing her teeth with alcohol, and she also talks to a DJ in the chorus. Sounds pretty clear-cut, right? But I would like you to take notice of the fact that at no point does Kesha ever mention getting severely drunk. The closest she gets is the line, "Everybody getting crunk crunk," because crunk is a slang term that is a portmanteau of crazy and drunk. Or is it? Per Urban Dictionary, crunk can also be a combination of chronically and drunk, chronic the drug and drunk, or even crack and drunk. Crunk can also be used as a euphemism for any curse word, as it is used by Conan O'Brien. And getting crunk can be a term for just generally having a good time, regardless of what substances are and aren't used. The rappers who coined the term have used it in quite a variety of different ways. Additionally, Kesha mentions everybody getting crunk, and everybody is just a colloquial generalized term. For example, if we assume that crunk does mean drunk, then at the very least, any designated drivers and the DJ cannot get drunk. Because of the vagueness of the phrase, no assumption about its meaning can be made. We must rely on the context to decipher it, which I'll get to in just a moment. Back to my initial point, the only other time Kesha mentions getting drunk is when she mentions trying to get a little bit tipsy. A little bit tipsy is hardly the extent expected from an experienced partygoer, and this is the most drunk she expresses wanting to become. Plus, later in the song, she actually mentions her intentions to smack a guy for getting too drunk. Kesha is clearly not glorifying drinking. If anything, she is berating it. But if the song isn't about partying, a lot of it still doesn't make sense, right? There are two lines we've ignored until now that are the ultimate key to understanding the song. They are, "Boys blowing up our phones," and "DJ blow my speakers up." What do these two lines have in common? They are both about things blowing up. This small, seemingly insignificant motif cracks this song wide open. Kesha is not singing from the perspective of a party-loving youth. She is speaking from the perspective of a Muslim girl in the Middle East. When she mentions boys blowing up the phones of her and people implied to be her fellow females, she means it in a metaphorical sense. In the Middle East, women are terribly oppressed, and therefore do not have the ability to speak up and communicate their own opinions. Hence, their phones are blown up. This is also why it's boys specifically who blow up their phones. At the beginning of the song, she has been living in terrible conditions. Her father is too poor to even afford toothpaste because all he buys is Jack. And thanks to their culture, she and her mother are powerless to stop his alcoholism and possibly his abusive tendencies. This particular morning, however, she wakes up feeling like P. Diddy because she is elated to finally set in motion a way to change her life. She's going to run away, hence why after she leaves for the night, she isn't coming back. What exactly is she running away to, though? A rebel terrorist alliance with plans to hit the city, a phrase referring to a planned terrorist attack. The fabulous manner in which she mentions leaving is meant in an ironic way. For instance, she can't spend much time trying on all her clothes because all she owns is a niqab. She specifically is leaving to a brief secret meeting in which members of the alliance will drink a toast before they initiate their plan. This is how she will get a little bit tipsy. Nobody can get too drunk for risk of someone screwing their part of the plan up, hence why Kesha will smack a guy who gets too drunk. But they do get crunk, simply meaning excited, for the rebellion to begin. They all rally around the leader of the alliance, the DJ, called as such because of the way in which he excites and conducts his audience. They, led by the DJ, are literally going to blow speakers up. Not audio speakers, mind you, but political leaders who are giving a speech for some occasion. After they make their name through this attack, they will continue to fight until they see the sunlight of freedom, and the party, the chaos, will not end until they reach their political goals. All they have to do is plant the bomb and then wait for it to explode. Tick-tock on the clock. But their plans are stopped by the police. The popos find these people in the middle of their meeting and shut them down, probably using violence. Kesha, being a woman, is likely treated especially violently and is almost certainly executed. So, when she left for the night, I suppose she really didn't come back. That's the end of TikTok, but the story does not end with that song. It was continued 3 years later with her song Blow. This time Kesha is telling the story from a different perspective, that of the police that conduct the assault on the Alliance. The song begins with her mentioning that she and her fellow police have cracked the back door without the need of a key or a VIP pass of any sort. They simply break in. She mockingly tells one of the terrorists to drink that Kool-Aid, and then announces that he is coming with her, i.e. he is under arrest. She then literally says it's time to kill the lights and shut the DJ down, clearly referring to targeting the DJ's terrorist plot. They are taking over and nobody will escape. The place is about to blow. When Kesha talks about getting what she wants and doing what the terrorists don't, she means that the fact that her conduct is in tune with the law makes it more righteous and gets her perks from the government, even though it's just as violent. In this next line, dirt obviously covers the floor, considering the location, but what about glitter? Glitter is a euphemism for bullets. It's also used again later in the song when she tells her squad mates to grab some glitter and make it rain on them. She's telling them to spray the terrorists with bullets. Evidently, when shooting them, the police aim for the head because she tells the terrorists that it's time to lose your mind and let the crazy out, warning them that their brains are about to be shot out. Finally, she tells the terrorists to let her see their hands, which isn't even subtle. The police have so much power, and as they take over, all they can tell their people is to get used to it. Now, obviously, Kesha doesn't just write songs that take place in the Middle East. Let's move on to a different setting. We Are Who We Are takes place in an urban area of the Dominican Republic. The story is told from the perspective of a gang member. If you didn't know, in the Dominican Republic, crime basically runs the economy, and so gangsters have a lot of power. That's how they are able to run this town in the manner that they please. It's also why you don't want to mess with them, and how they're hot and dangerous. People in Spanish-speaking countries tend to be very religious, which is why Kesha has Jesus on her necklace. To be abundantly clear, Kesha is not making light of this terrible lifestyle, and this is clear from the chorus. Most obviously, she states that her criminal activity is tearing the world apart. More subtly, however, She states that her gang is acting just like the world is theirs, but notice how she doesn't say that the world is theirs. This is a subtle admission that her gang does not have as much power as the members think it does. Additionally, in the second verse, she complains about how seriously she has to treat everything because of the high stakes of her lifestyle, but in the end, she is who she is. She uses naturalism as a justification for how she is forced to live, and she disingenuously tells herself that she's having fun to cope with her life. This is very reflective of the real culture in the Dominican Republic. Many of the youth there believe that they do not have a choice other than to join a gang because of the sheer power that crime has. Okay, now that I've ruined your childhood, let's move on to the last song. This one is going to be a short one because there is not much to explain. The name of this song is Your Love Is My Drug. This song holds a special place in my heart because my first kiss was set to it, but I'll try to remain unbiased in my interpretation of it. Just kidding about the first part. Anyway, over the years, I've heard various claims about the real meaning behind this song. Some believe that Kesha is using her boyfriend for his access to drugs. Some believe that her boyfriend has a weird fetish for when she's on drugs. Some believe that Kesha is using sex as a replacement for her drug addiction. Some have even said that the song is about Kesha's boyfriend drugging her, or vice versa. The people who come up with these interpretations are looking way too far into it, possibly in an effort to further demonize Kesha. No drugs are used throughout the song. Kesha is simply comparing her relationship with a certain guy to a drug, and the verses back up this straightforward interpretation. She mentions that her friends and her mother do not agree with her dating this guy, and that the guy is slowly taking over all her decisions and thoughts, both effects similar to those of a drug addiction. She has almost a childlike crush on this guy, bordering on an obsession, but she is self-aware of this, and because she is an adult now, she's able to use a very adult comparison for her relationship. Her use of this particular metaphor does not mean she is condoning the use of drugs whatsoever. If anything, she's arguing for her audience to build relationships with people that make them happy instead of using drugs, which I believe is a very good message to send, not to mention a heartwarming one. I could go on. For example, Dinosaur and Grow a Pair are about Kesha securing her sexual agency, Blah 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 is an allegory for the futility of trying to balance national security and privacy, and Take It Off is about her participation in an underground dogfighting league. But at this point, I think I have already made my point. There is more to Kesha than you probably initially thought, and claims that her songs vehemently promote partying are unfounded by reality. Ultimately, here's what your takeaway should be. Even if something seems to be a certain way, be sure to get all the information before criticizing it. If you do some of your own investigation, you'll never know what you might find.